friends. How is everyone? This is Connecting to Spirit with Stacy. Tuesday talks at 10:30. I'm going to sit here and talk to you for a little while. This is not a live angel card reading. This is just a time that we get together every Tuesday at 10:30 and we talk about things that maybe you aren't comfortable talking about. We talk about meditation. We talk about death and dying. We talk about mediumship. We talk about spirit, spiritual paths. So I'm going to wait for a minute here until everyone gets on. Let me know that you're here. Say hello. So I know that you are here. Turn this down. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, good morning. Some great events coming up. Check connectingtospiritwithstacy.com. Click on events. Get your tickets. Tonight will be the second podcast from the B2B Media, which is on YouTube and like 20 different platforms. But I will share the link here in a little while and we can gather together tonight at 8 p.m. I know sometimes 10:30 in the morning people are working, so they're not able to, jump on, but you can always watch the replay. And if you could just say hi or, let me know if it's the replay. If this is the first time that you've been on, put a 1 so that I can personally welcome you afterwards. But good morning, good morning. Tuesday talks at 10:30. It's November. Like, what the heck happened to May, June, July, August, September, and October? November already. It's crazy how quickly this year is going. And today is an important day. We're not going to get into it, but get out there and do what you need to do. We'll just say that about it, okay? But it's an important day. So, good morning. I'm not seeing any comments yet. Let's see. Let me look on here. But we're going to talk about a difficult subject today. Whoops, 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 whoops. We are going to talk about grief, navigating grief from a difficult relationship. Oh, there we go. I see some comments. Yay. Okay. I'm such the non-techie. Like I have my laptop up and then two cell phone so that I can see comments. But I'm seeing it now. So good morning, good morning, good morning. So, as you all know, I'm Stacy Niedenthal, evidential medium, child of God, spiritual healer with the ability to channel spirit using love and light for the higher good of myself and the person that's sitting in front of me. I am not the medium that says, I see death all around you and you're going to be dead in 10 days. My gift, my prayer is always that God and spirit and angels bring in the most loving message to help your spirit heal. And like I said, today is not an angel card reading. This is Tuesday Talks at 10:30, where I just sit here and I talk to you about things. So, like I talked to you last week and the week before and the week before that, I've been on a reading kick. And last week we talked about a book that I started reading, The Untethered Soul. And I finished it last night. And there were so many good things in there that we're going to talk about here in a little while. But first, I wanted to talk about how do you navigate a difficult relationship when there's no closure, when there's no resolution, and this person passes? How do you navigate that? How do you work through that? Now, believe me, I do not have all the answers, but maybe through talking about this, it'll help create some thought processes for yourself. So, we all go through grief, and it's all different for all of us. And we hate the fact that we have to lose people and they pass away, and maybe you never got that last conversation with them. What if your last conversation wasn't a good one? What if there was distance between the two of you because of an argument or a misunderstanding? It's one of those things that if this happens to you, there's this pit in your stomach that lasts for a very, very long time. Relationships can be hard, whether they are family or friend. Um, Humans get in the way. Emotions get in the way. Misunderstandings get in the way. Feelings get hurt. There's jealousy. We have all this stuff that bunches up in us within our lifetime. And when that person passes, that maybe you didn't get to have resolution, all of a sudden your mind starts to spiral out of control of the what ifs, feelings of regret and remorse. And then it can be a lifetime of what ifs, and it's difficult. I, have some difficult relationships right now that there is no resolution. Some of them I'm at peace with and saying, you know what, it's fine. As you've heard me say, reason, season are for life. It's fine that these things can go away, but some of them I don't have resolution in. And I did have a very dear friend of mine who passed at his own hand when we were not on the best of terms. And that rolls around in my head from time to time. But I have to know that the boundaries that I put up at the time were needed. Unfortunately, we weren't able to resolve the conflict. I was not able to have peace with this particular person before they passed. So am I going to live with that regret all of my life? Or am I going to say, you know what? I need to release it. So in talking about this, I'm not saying to you that it's not good for you to have boundaries. I'm not saying that it is okay for people to hurt you over and over and over again. I'm not saying it's okay for you to be a doormat and let people use you. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying find peace within your boundaries so that if something should happen, it's not that tug of war for years and years and years afterwards. In my 60 years on this earth, I've had unusual relationships, some very close, some not so close. One of my closest and longest relationships, recently ended because of a difference of opinion. I stood back, we had a conversation. I've released them, I've forgiven them, I've released myself, I've forgiven myself, and I send them joy and love. And if ever there comes a time where we would see each other, I'm going to be friendly. But I'm not the person that's going to pick up the phone call because that relationship has changed. I have found peace with it. Peace with it. Um, what I'm saying too is if there's a difficult relationship, maybe put an olive branch out to that person and just say, if you want to talk, I'm open to it. You've put the olive branch out. You have no, what's the word? Control over if they reciprocate or not. And I've recently done that with someone and I have not heard from them. So I have to just say, okay, they're choosing to end this relationship, this friendship. I need to send them healing, send them love, release it, and let it go. So in our lifetime, many relationships will be unresolved. But in the end, when they pass, all of a sudden we have this newfound what if. Um, if it's too late, then we are left to kind of deal with it on our own. And maybe you decide out of respect to attend the funeral. And everyone at the funeral is talking about what a great person this was and how much they're going to miss them and this, and this. And maybe you think to yourself, well, you didn't really know them or you didn't know them the way that I knew them. But you're not going to say that. I've never been to a funeral where they're like, man, was this person a real difficult person? And, you never have that. But know that if you meet that person where they're at. You know them where they're at. Does that make sense? Sometimes you grow apart, and you have to be okay with that. You know, instead of allowing your mind to spiral out of control, you have to say, I met them where they were at that particular time. We were at two different places, and we had to sever the ties and leave it go at that. It's not right to speak ill of the dead. We've all been taught that. So you're not going to, hopefully, regurgitate bad things about this person at their funeral or at their wake or even afterwards. You will just simply say, I enjoyed the relationship we had at the time, and it taught me a lot of lessons. And stop. Leave that go. Have any of you ever had a situation like this? You know, if this is the first time you've been on Put a One, let me know where you're watching from. But let me know, have you ever had this situation where you've lost someone with conflict? And it happens in families, and it happens with friends. You know, I didn't, how do you want to say it? How do I want to say that? There's a reason why they say that some families are dysfunctional. And I'm not talking about if someone chooses to no longer be on this earth for whatever reason it is and you feel guilt about that. I'm saying if you had a knockdown drag out with them. I'm saying if you were a child of a parent who was never around or made excuses, that you never found resolution with this. So I want you to know that Spirit has a full understanding of this. And maybe if I explain to you what I've learned from Spirit, it will give you a little bit of peace about it. So, like I said, Spirit has a full understanding of the reasons why things happen. I feel as if when you pass, you get a life review and you have an understanding of situations that cropped up in your life, like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand. I want you to know that Spirit does not have human emotions. They don't hate you, they're not disappointed in you. They are surrounded in love, and all they send to you is love with a better understanding. They see what we're going through, they see our struggles, they see the mind screws going on because of their path. They're surrounded in love, they send you love. They do not want you to be tormented with grief. They do not want you to be tormented with guilt or resentment or the what ifs. They're okay. We're not, because we still have those human emotions. Our mind is our worst enemy sometimes. It it takes us on this whirlwind sometimes. You start with one little piece of information, one thing, and you've got to be a detective on where you went wrong, what you did wrong. Well, let me tell you, a relationship, a friendship takes two. You're not always to blame. They're not always to blame. The blame is, and I don't even really know if I want to say that it's the blame. The cause of the disconnection is because there was no communication, no connection anymore. One thing you could do, if this is something that you struggle with, is write them a letter. Tell them how you feel. Tell them about the situation. Because when you get it out of here onto here, it leaves. It allows you to release it. Have a conversation with them out loud. Imagine them responding to you. You know how they would respond to you. And imagine them responding in an understanding tone. Not an argument, in an understanding tone. Clear the air and release it. Allow yourself the grace of forgiveness. Okay? Your loved one in spirit, your disconnection from this loved one in spirit has a better understanding. They're not holding grudges. They're not disappointed with you. They understand. And they may be even at the point where they're like, could have done that better. But I love you. And I want to send love to you. So let me tell you, I've been releasing a lot of stuff lately. A lot of things that I've been carrying around with me for a long time. I feel as if my calling, my passion is helping others heal and navigate grief. Well, there's this saying, healer, heal thyself. How am I going to show healing to others if I myself am going through struggles? We all go through it. I'm not superhuman. I get I spiral out of control. I say what's on my mind and then think, oh, I shouldn't have said it that way. But it's walking through, it's acknowledging what needs to be healed. I think about how I would like to be remembered. And I know it may sound morbid, but you know what? Death is reality. And death is really only the only reality of life, how we lived and how we want to be remembered. As I started thinking about Tuesday Talks at 10:30 last week, I've been listening to a couple podcasts and reading books like crazy. And I can't help you navigate through grief. I can't. You will navigate it the best way that you know how. And no one can help you navigate through grief. They they can be beside you, but they can't tell you how to navigate this. I've got a comment. I've desperately been needing to hear this. I feel I can finally move forward in the absolutely, absolutely, Dawn. Um, so in finishing reading The Untethered Soul, and I talked about this last week about the voice in your head. I want you to bear with me for a few minutes because I want to read a couple paragraphs to you. And it talks about how you want to be remembered. All right. So here we go. And thank you. It also talks about fearing death. Okay. What is it that won't let us live our lives? What is inside of us that we are so afraid of that keeps us from enjoying our life? This part of us is so busy trying to make sure that the next thing goes right that we can't just be in life right now. After all the while, death is watching at our footsteps. Do you want to live before death comes? You're probably not going to get a warning. Very few people are told when they're going to die. Almost no one, almost everyone just takes a breath and then they don't take another. So start using every day to let go of the scared part of that which won't let you live your life fully. Since you know eventually you are going to die, be willing to be fully present without being afraid of what will happen in the next moment. That's how people live when they face death. You get to do that too because you are facing death every single moment. Learn to live as though you are facing death at all times, and you'll become bolder and more open. If you live life fully, you won't have any last wishes. You will have lived them every single moment. Only then will you have fully experienced life and release the part of you that is afraid of living. There is no reason to be afraid of life, and the fear will fade once you understand that the only thing that is there for you to get from life is the growth that comes from experiencing it. Life itself is your career, and it's your interaction with life in your most meaningful relationship. Everything else you do is just focusing on a tiny subset of your life in the attempt to give life some meaning. What actually gives life meaning is the willingness to live it. It isn't any particular event, it's the willingness to experience life's events. What if you knew that the next person you'd see would be the last person you would ever see? You'd be right there soaking it up, experiencing it. It wouldn't matter what were saying. You'd just enjoy hearing the words because it would be the last conversation you'd ever have. What if it brought the kind of awareness? What if you brought this awareness to every type of conversation? That's what happens when you're told that life is around the corner. You change. Life doesn't change. The true seeker commits to live like every moment and lets nothing stop them. Why should anything stop you? You're just going to die anyway. If you challenge yourself to live as though this was your last week, your mind may be up on all kinds of suppressed desires. It may start talking about all the things that you've always wanted to do, and you may think that you had better get them done. You will soon see that there's no answer. You have to understand that it is your attempt to get special experiences from life that make you miss actual experiences of life. Life is not something that you get, it is something that you experience. Life exists with or without you. It's been going on for billions of years. You simply get the honor of seeing a tiny slice of it. If you're busy trying to get something, you're going to miss that slice, that experience. Everyone, everyone's life experience is different, and every experience is worth having. Life is not something to waste. It's truly precious. That's why death is such a great teacher. It is death that makes life so precious. Look at how precious life becomes when you imagine you only have a week left to live. How precious life would be if there was no such thing as death. You'd waste every second because you'd figure, I've got another second. It is the scarcity that makes things precious. It is the scarcity that makes a simple rock a rare gem. So death actually gives meaning to life. Death is your friend. Death is your liberator. For God's sakes, don't be afraid of death. Try to learn what it is saying to you. The highest way to learn is to take every moment of your life and realize what matters and live it fully. If you live each moment completely, you will have a fuller life and you will not have to fear death. You fear death because you crave life. You fear death because there's something to get there that you haven't experienced yet. So, in reading that, what do you want your legacy to be? We all have a legacy. How do you want to be remembered? If you're experiencing life right now, maybe, just maybe, that means that the person that we've had to walk away from is no longer part of the experience that we need. Maybe they are part of a past experience. Maybe they were, what is the word, act one in your movie of life. And maybe their character isn't reintroduced into your storyline. Now, I believe in second chances. I believe people make mistakes. I know I make mistakes. But where I have to put my boundary up is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance of this person who totally drains my energy, who does not have my best interest in mind. Those who lie or cheat or manipulate. That doesn't need to be part of my life experience. I've experienced it. Now move on. I forgive you. I release you. I forgive myself and I release myself. But I have to put a boundary up to not let you entangle in my web again. Makes sense? So I do believe people are in your life for a reason, for a season, or for life. And we've talked about this 100 times. But I don't feel as if all people that you've connected with in your lifetime need to be in your full life experience. Some of those need to say goodbye. And if you've contacted this person and said, I would like to have a conversation with you, and you put the olive branch out and there's no reciprocation, you tried. Okay? You tried. I sometimes go back and forth. Should I have done this? Should I have said that? Maybe I could have been better. And my ego makes me feel like it's all on me. Phone rings both ways. The door opens both ways. I have to sit back and say, what is my responsibility in this situation? Have I reached out and tried to make amends? Have they reciprocated? When we tried to come to a resolution, did it end up in an argument? Did I stay calm? Right? The book, this Untethered Soul, talks about choosing to be happy. It's a choice. You can choose to allow these sensations to move through you or to be stuck within your energy and your spirit and your mind. I'm not saying you're going to be happy that someone passed. I'm not saying you're going to be happy that you had to disconnect with a relationship, but I'm saying move through it. Sadness is a reality, and you're going to be sad sometimes. Happiness is a choice, and it takes work. You can't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be happy this morning. No. Wake up with gratitude, with the lessons that you've been taught, with the places that you've seen and where you're at, who you are, where you've been, and where you are now, right? Um, Sometimes it's a hard conversation with yourself. Do you know how many conversations I have with myself? Oh my God. I have so many conversations with myself. Cheryl, I know. Isn't this an awesome book? And there's a workbook that goes with it. I wanted to read the book first, and then do the workbook later. But when you talk about the conversations with yourself, sorry, I got off on a little tangent there. Remember last week in Tuesday Talks at 10:30, I talked about the voice in your head, the one that's constantly talking. Is it nagging you? Is it cheering you on? Is it giving you ideas? Are they good ideas? Are they bad ideas? It's changing the tone of that voice. So if you have honest conversations with yourself, am I at fault? Do I need to make amends? Why am I hurt? What is this teaching me? Because there are triggers in our life from past things that we don't even really remember. There's a certain cologne that used to trigger me all the time because it reminded me of a toxic relationship. And even yesterday when I was out and about and and I was getting cologne for Jeff and I saw this cologne, I like just kind of like rolled my eyes, but I wasn't triggered. I walked through it. I chose not to let that ruin my day. Have you ever had someone say to you, I was having a good day till we had this conversation? well, maybe this conversation needs to happen, and I'm sorry if it ruins your day, but ruining your day is your choice. I choose to be happy. I choose to let the emotions like run through me and not stop me from having a good day, from being happy. Now, again, death is difficult. Grief is difficult. How do you be happy about death and grief? You don't. But you be happy that this person was in your life for whatever amount of time and what they taught you. If it was a difficult relationship, maybe they taught you how not to be. Ever think of that? I had a medium tell me one time that I was going to have a better relationship with a certain person after they pass than I am with their human energy because they will have a better understanding. And if you are the child of someone who was abusive, neglectful, it is not your fault. Release that. Take on the fact that you survived it and now you know how not to behave and work on those wounds, those triggers, and heal them. Release that person. If you can't do it face to face, write them a letter, then burn the letter. Put your hand on your heart, come from the deepest part of love. Go to a certain situation, a certain hurt, and just say, I release you and I forgive you. And you release me and you forgive me. And I release myself. I'm cutting the cord of this trigger. I'm letting it go. All right? I realize that it's hard when it is a family member, when it is a blood relation. But then I also sit back and I'm like, you know what? I have some friends who are family because I have a closer bond with them. There's not these expectations of who they think I should be. There's not past mistakes that they know that what I did when I was a kid or whatever. Right? And sometimes, and I'm going to admit this to you, sometimes when I see families that always get together and they do family vacations or they do this or they, I have a little bit of jealousy within me. Now, my husband and myself and my kids and my grandkids are very, very close. I wish we could be closer. We all live in kind of different situations, different areas. But every single one of my kids and my grandkids know if they need me, I'm dropping everything and I will be there. Do you have that with someone? I may not have that with a family member, a higher generation family member, but I have that with my family, my husband, my son, my two daughters, my grandkids. I know without a doubt if I needed them, they would be here. And I know without a doubt if they needed me, they know without a doubt I would be there for them. Maybe it's because that wasn't always part of the plan when I was younger. Maybe it's because of a past trauma I had in past relationships. I don't know. But I can't let that trigger me. I can't let that jealousy, that anger build up inside of me. I have to be grateful for the family my husband and I created and the closeness that we have. So if you honestly have looked at all of the angles and taken responsibility for the things that you're responsible for, and remember, it's difficult to release it when the other person has not assumed responsibility. For some reason, we need to hear it. Just say what you did. Just say what you did. Well, and then what? And then what? Where does it go from there? Try to overcome the fact that you've been hurt or separated from someone and say, you know what? That season, that um, chapter of my book, of my life book, is over. And I'm thankful that it happened, thankful for the things that I learned, but I cannot let it roll around in my head and make me feel regret, remorse, anger, disbelief. You know, I have to choose to be happy by walking through it. The book talks about death is life's only reality. And when I read that, I thought, oh my God, that, yes, that's the only reality of life. And do you know why it's the reality of life? Because all of a sudden, when someone passes, everybody says, I wish I would have spent more time with them. I wish I would have done this. Everybody rallies around the family. Why don't you do that before someone passes? And if, like I said, if this was a difficult relationship, forgive yourself. Accept responsibility for your part in it, but then release it. Because, my friend, you are loved, and they are okay. And they will have a better understanding when they get into spirit. So why do you let it torture you? It's disconnecting. Because you had to disconnect from them in life. It is okay to do things that are better for your health, your mindset, to disconnect. Do you have that one friend who, no matter what you do, they're critiquing you, they're telling you you're doing it the wrong way, they're this, they're this? You know what? Shut up. This is not your life. This is my life. You have all these opinionated people in your life. Well, your opinion counts for you. Make sense? Why do you listen to the opinions of everybody else? If I listened to the opinions of everybody else, good Lord, I would probably, I wouldn't be in this shop, I would, who knows what I would be doing. If I listened and I remember, and I'm just going to share this with you. Oh, I'm getting warm. And I've probably shared this before. When I was in school a million years ago, let me tell you. And we had to choose classes, right? We had to choose our classes. And I remember my mom saying to me, you need to take shorthand and typing and business because there's always secretarial jobs out there. And I said to her, but I don't want to be a secretary or administrative assistant, as we call it now. I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. I want to be a lawyer. I want to have a voice. And I was always very outspoken, believe that or not. And I remember mom looking at me and just saying, you just need to find a nice man, settle down, get married, and have him take care of you. And in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, that was not something that I was like, I don't need anybody to take care of me. I can take care of myself. This is what I want to do. But and I did listen to a certain degree, um, hence the first failed marriage. And I'm not blaming my mother. I'm blaming the thought process. But that first failed marriage, for the longest time, I had so much anger towards this person. And I finally got to the point, and it took me a long time, that I wished him well here. I didn't need to have the conversation with him. How exes can be friends, I don't understand it. I think it's great for the kids if it is not a toxic relationship. But if something were to happen to him, I am at peace with how we left things. Make sense? I am grateful that he gave me two wonderful children and put me in a position where I met the man of my dreams for 30 years and had a third child and then grandchildren. Struggled, yes. And I'm not mad at those struggles. I learned. I'm not mad at certain people because of those struggles. They were all learning lessons that put me exactly where I'm at right now, today. So, if you have to disconnect from someone, find peace within yourself and say to yourself, this is the last conversation I am having with said person? Am I okay with it? And if you're not, have another conversation. Or have the conversation with yourself, looking at all angles of the situation. Because death is the only reality of life. And once they pass, they leave this big matzo ball on you if you didn't find resolution, if you didn't find peace before they passed. Okay? And if you didn't find peace before they passed, find peace now. Release it. There is nothing you could have done that would have changed the course of the situation of what happened, because there's death now. I accept that. I forgive myself for that. I've learned from that. I forgive them for that. And they forgive me. Cut that cord. Visualize the cord going from them to you. Have a conversation in your head. You would know what they were going to say. Have a calm conversation in your head with them, with spirit. Ooh, not sure what's going on here. Not an argument, not one that spirals out of control. Breathe through it. Choose to be happy. Choose to forgive. Choose to release. By thinking about living like, being in the moment. If this were my last week, if I knew I had 1 week to live, how would I act? Would I be worried about this? Would I be getting bunched up about that? No. Think about it. So I want you to be at peace with yourself to know that if there is no reciprocating conversation, that was weird, from this person, there's no way to fix it. It's out of your hands. It's out of your control. No regrets. Death is the only reality of life. And possibly, if you think in the present and you think about, I need to live every single day like it was my last day. I need to experience life, not just be here. How would things change? Possibly, you would have better relationships with people. Possibly, you would have a better relationship with yourself. Think about that. There is no good or bad grief. There just isn't. There are millions of books on grief. None of them is the absolute answer to how to walk through grief, let alone grieving someone that you didn't have resolution with. But show yourself some grace. I made a mistake. Wasn't able to have a conversation with them. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to write them a letter. I'm going to have a conversation. But more importantly, I'm going to learn not to have this happen to me again. I'm going to find peace within myself before, because boundaries are not wrong. Okay? They're not wrong. If you have a boundary and someone crosses the boundary and you confront them about crossing this boundary and they get upset with you and you have a discussion and it turns into an argument and all of a sudden you decide to part ways because your boundary is your boundary. Give yourself some grace and say, it was okay that was unacceptable for them to do this to me or speak to me that way. And I'm not going to let them do that. You know? Make sense? So, setting boundaries for your own health, spirit, energy, don't feel guilt about that. Try not to feel guilt about lost conversations because of that. Okay? There's no easy answers here. If you came on to Connecting to Spirit with Stacy Tuesday talks at 10:30 and thought, "Oh, Stacy's going to tell me how I should navigate grief of a difficult relationship," and after she talks, whoop, all that grief's going to be gone, you're wrong. You were wrong, and I'm sorry. Maybe I misled you. But I'm saying allow yourself to feel the feelings, but acknowledge to yourself why you feel the feelings. All of a sudden, when someone passes, all of a sudden, everybody forgets what a SOB they were and how they made you feel, you know? And you have to not speak ill of the dead. And you have to do. But here's the thing: be thankful for the experience that you had. Allow yourself the grace of grief because it will get better and then it won't. And then it will. And then it won't. And then all of a sudden, you're not really even thinking about it for a while. This person who disrespected you, who made you feel a certain way. And then there'll be a trigger, and then you'll think about them. And then you'll be like, go to the heart center. Forgive yourself. Forgive them. Release them. Because we're human. And difficulty is part of being human if you want it to be difficult. Choose to be happy. Choose to feel the emotions. Let them roll through your spirit and your energy with a smile and a learning experience. To know that because of this experience, my life will get better because now I have learned from this. Okay? So, no easy answers, no easy outs, no, and it's gone. Grief is that nagging voice in your head, in your energy. It sneaks up on you when you least expect it. If you choose to be present with it, feel it, release it, it may not be so bad. It may get easier with time, and then difficult, and then easy. That's grief. All right, guys. Well, I hope this has helped you think about how to navigate grief of a difficult relationship, being present within yourself, choosing to experience life. This book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, highly recommend it. This is the one I told you last week. What drew me to it was Deepak Chopra said, read this book carefully and you will get a glimpse of eternity. And the whole book, some of the chapters I was like, but it made sense once I got to a certain point. The first two chapters sucked me in. What's that voice telling you in your head? But this chapter where it was talking about, let me just see what the title of the chapter is. Contemplating Death. That's the title of the chapter, chapter 17. Contemplating Death. It's weird to think about our death. It's weird to talk about our death. I talk about death all the time, but I'm also a medium. But if you think about how you want to be remembered, um, what you want your legacy to be, and even if you're not, you know, you don't think, oh, I'm not going to have a legacy. We all have a legacy. We all have a legacy. What do you want it to be? Choose to be happy. Be graceful with yourself through grief. And don't imprison yourself by grieving, being so hard on yourself for grieving a difficult relationship. It was difficult. Grief will be difficult, but release it. All right, guys. This is Tuesday Talks at 10:30. I will be back next week at 10:30 in the morning. But tonight's the podcast, the second podcast on B2B Media. It's on YouTube and Apple and Spotify and iHeart under, guess what? Connecting to Spirit with Stacey Needendall. So we'll be looking at that. Um, Hold on a second. My grief is different than what you're talking about. My husband died 6 years ago. I never accepted his death. Still waiting for him to come home. Oh, yeah, totally different type of grief, Chrissy. And I, I'm sending love to you that you can find grace within yourself to walk through it, to feel it. But guess what? You're never going to get over the thought within your head that you're waiting for him to come home. Someday you will go home. Okay? And he'll be there. But thank you for commenting that. So on that note, guys, I will see you next Tuesday at 10:30. I pray each and every one of you are living the life you love and loving the life you live. If not, you're the only one that can change it. Choose to be present in your life. Choose to be happy. Choose to feel the emotions. And don't hold yourself prisoner from a difficult relationship. Okay? All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Peace out. I love you bunches. Have a great week and see you soon. All right. Bye bye.